This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michael Rossi, Chairman of the Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission. I would like to call this regular meeting to order at 7 p.m. Lisa, will you please call the roll?
Michael Rossi,
Here.
Ellen Dahlgren,
Here.
Eddie Alberino,
Here.
Bill Clark,
Here.
Martin Jaffe,
Here.
Alan Kravitz,
Here.
Mike Knudsen, Adam Moore,
Here.
Amandeep Singh, Jeffrey Cashman, Will Benoit.
Okay, and I'll seat Will Benoit for Mandeep Singh. And we have a quorum. My comments, again, I just want to read the sort of the basic rules for the meeting. Please be advised that we are recording the audio and the video of today's proceedings, including a transcript of the chat discussion. The default rule for this meeting is that we ask everyone to remain on mute. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will generally be keeping video of themselves on throughout the meeting. If you, members of the public may only speak during a public hearing. If a member of the public speaks outside of a public hearing or creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected from the meeting upon recommendation of the staff or the chair. If you have questions or issues with this process, please email Lisa DiMaria. This process, well, it's getting to be an old process, but our goal is to be as inclusive as possible. Please be patient with us as we go through this process. The next item on the agenda, we have minutes from the July 13th, 2020 regular monthly meeting, the August 3rd regular monthly meeting, the May 29th regulation committee meeting, the July 1st regulation committee meeting, and the July 29th regulation committee meeting. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none from the commissioners, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you, Alan.
I'll second.
Yes.
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
Marty.
Marty. Okay, I couldn't see it. All those in favor, I'm not going to do a roll call on this one. All those in favor? Please.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes have been approved. Thank you. We'll go to the staff reports. John had emailed out or submitted a report that got emailed out to everyone. John, can you summarize anything in there that you think you?
No, we did a fair bit of work this month putting together some more regulations, really kind of starting the staff cleanup of a number of the regulations. We're going to have some proposals for you this evening, hopefully to schedule for public hearing. Perhaps we can talk about those during the regulations committee section. Other than that, and with respect to our friends from RiverCOG who are joining us, I will point out that we completed the our comments on the draft of the region-wide and the Clinton chapter of the natural hazards mitigation plan.
Okay, I think
which were submitted by Councilmember Christine Goupil and myself at the end of last week. So that draft is just about set. And I think there'll probably be one more sort of public meeting, and then they'll be recirculating the final document back around to the towns for endorsement and adoption, probably in the next month or so. But
Is
other
the
than that, I'd
draft-
be happy to answer any questions about
Is
my
the
report.
draft available?
I could forward you what I received. I'm not sure if it's generally available. It was circulated through the each town steering committee, but I don't know if I know it's Margot Burns is the point person. I don't know if Megan or Torrance would be able to speak to the availability of the complete draft.
Megan or Torrance, do you want to answer that?
I do not know the availability of that at this point.
All right, Alan, I'll check with
Okay.
Margot. I'll check with Margot Burns to see if we can circulate the full draft.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. In that case, I'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is SE 20-12, special exception application for conversion of first floor workshop into dwelling unit to create a two-family house at 17 Glenwood Road. Had the public hearing closed last week, so it is open for deliberation and possible vote. At this time, I would like to basically open this up to members of the commission to talk about it. If you're interested in speaking, please just turn off your mute and I'll recognize you.
Did we get a corrected review by the fire marshal?
Kathy? You're on mute, Kathy.
I apologize, it took a minute. Yeah, I talked to Jeff. I sent out an email to all of you. You still can't hear me? Barton, you're nodding your head. Can you hear me? So the thing is that good, thanks. He said it's correct. He said the reason it's like that is because he's going to continue workshop in like the basement area, but the dwelling units will remain dwelling units. So he said he talked with Ed Smith, our building official at length, and he said that it is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Adam, you wanted to speak?
No.
Okay. Any further discussion on this application? Hearing none, is there someone who would like to make a motion relative to this application?
Mike, I'll move it.
Okay, thank
Move
you, Al.
approval.
I'll
Okay,
second the motion.
second, Walter. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, I don't believe there were any conditions on this when we looked at it in the public hearing. I didn't have any written down. With that, then, can we have a roll call vote? Lisa?
Ellen Dahlgren,
Aye, to approve.
Eddie Alberino,
Aye, to approve.
Bill Clark,
Aye to approve.
Martin Jaffe,
Aye to approve.
Alan Kravitz,
Aye.
Adam Moore,
Aye.
Will Benoit.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, it passed. That one was relatively painless. The next one is going to be simple also, AR 20-013. For amendments to zoning regulations. This was withdrawn at the meeting last week, so there is no business with it. And we move on to the committee reports. The first one is the administrative committee. And Alan, I believe you wanted to say something about administrative committee?
Well, I've had some thoughts about having an administrative committee, a formal one, having some input into the budgetary process, preparing for that, probably working on, I don't know where it falls. I guess it doesn't fall under administrative. Well, I'm very interested in getting the town manager to attend one of our meetings. And I'm particularly interested in what his input is in terms of planning, because he drew a picture in the on the website at the beginning of the layout of government, and it talks about plans, it talks about ways of achieving them, but it doesn't talk about planning. I'd like to have a sense of his definition of the role of planning in this town.
Okay.
I can arrange for that, Alan. I'll be happy to talk to Carl.
Thank you. Okay. In that case, we'll move on to the Regulations Committee. And John, you said you had some business with this, that you wanted to bring forward some possible applications or revisions?
Yes. So at the last Regulations Committee, again, we were talking about some staff cleanup recommendations of the regulations, sort of minor changes that kind of come up again and again, and we as staff kind of have a tough time explaining why the regulations are the way they are, and they definitely need to be fixed. So we put in the share file that's available to the commission and members of the public, a number of these recommendations that were advanced by the Regulations Committee, and would propose that they be scheduled for they be received and scheduled for a public hearing. If people do not have the public folder open, I could tell you just very briefly, they include a change to the definition of building height, basically removing the reference to a 1987 base map that no longer exists in hard copy format. A change to section 4, in which we basically eliminate the need for so many paper copies of plans submitted to planning and zoning and design review, basically deferring that all to electronic, but reserving the right of the staff to request paper copies as needed. We are proposing to change section 26, slightly increasing the square footage of an accessory shed that can be placed close to a property line, and slightly decreasing the minimum setback for that. So you can basically put a little prefab shed relatively close to your property lines. Changes to section 26, which is the minimum bulk and loading standards, that basically eliminates the minimum square footage. We had anywhere between 750 square feet for a ground floor and 1,200 square feet for a dwelling, which is generally thought to be sort of inappropriate and exclusionary. So we propose to eliminate those minima. A change to section 27, table of uses, clarifying that chickens, when we allow chickens, we mean hens. And not roosters, and roosters are to be allowed only on farms or properties of larger than 3 acres. And then there is a minor typo in section 31 that escapes me. It's basically a noun was turned into a verb inadvertently, so we wanted to correct that typo. So these are basically cleanup things. Again, all of the proposals in markup form are available in the share file under Clinton PZC, Regulations Committee, and August 2020 Amendment Proposal subfolder. I'm happy to answer questions, but my recommendation to the commission would be to receive these proposed amendments for public hearing in September.
Okay. John, are we able to do this as one set of things, or do we need to receive each one separately?
I think you can receive it all as a single application. It's just a number of changes to the regulations.
Okay. That's what I was hoping you would say.
Yeah, just as a point of order, are we receiving them since these are actually?
No, we aren't receiving them. We
Well,
can just
scheduling for a public hearing.
We're just scheduling them for a public hearing, so there's no application number for any of these.
Well,
because
there will be. There will be an application number. The commission, even though the commission is the applicant, we still need to track it. So it'll be AR whatever,
Whatever.
20 dash something.
Okay, so we can schedule it for a public hearing in advance of assigning that number. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, I'll move to schedule for a public hearing. What is the date, Lisa or Kathy? September? I
It'd be the Monday after Labor Day.
think it's the Monday after Labor Day. We're gonna have to look up that date.
14th.
All right. So I'll move to schedule on September 14th, 2020, the public hearing on the amendments as proposed, the amendments to section 26, 27.1, 27.2, section 4, electronic copies, section 3, building heights, section 31 to correct a typo, section 26.11, and 26.10 dealing with minimum square feet.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Ed seconded. Thank you. In that case, is there any further discussion on these? Hearing none, Lisa, would you please call a vote?
Ellen Dahlgren,
Aye.
Eddie Alberino,
Aye.
Bill Clark,
Aye.
Martin Jaffe,
Aye.
Alan Kravitz,
Aye.
Adam Moore,
Aye.
and Will Benoit.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I want to say thank you because we really appreciate your support in doing this. It makes our jobs so much better when we have great regulations and we can explain them in a way that makes sense. And these ones we're tripping over. So thank you very much for your support on the vote.
Okay, the next item is correspondence.
Excuse me.
No.
Yes,
I
go ahead.
had received a letter from Larry Wilmette, the Historic Preservation Commission, but proposed changes to the village district and to the enforcement provisions. Should those be referred to the Regulations Committee?
Yes.
Okay, so does it require a motion or anything to refer
No.
that? Okay.
They should be referred to land use. You shouldn't be receiving those letters. They should come through the proper channels.
Yeah, I wonder,
Okay.
did I
But I
upset
received
Larry
them.
Willett and he's not gonna be talking to me anymore?
Yeah, so that, those types of correspondence should go to the land use office directly, but as far as who would deal with that, it would be the Regulations Committee. Okay, other correspondence we have are the bills. Oh, Alan, yes.
Okay, on regulations, do we want to discuss the contractor yard?
Oh, certainly, go ahead.
Well, I would propose another meeting of the Regulations Committee to redraft that.
Okay, I'll circulate some proposed dates for a meeting.
And I have a question for John. I asked him about the permitting process that I'm interested in. You're going to look into the authority, the statutes behind the use of a permit in case of it. We have it in our ordinance for excavation.
Oh, yeah. I looked at that last week and I had some thoughts, but now I do not have my notes in front of me. I'll have to find them. Let me circle back with you if that's all right tomorrow.
Okay, I just appreciate that.
Well, that would be something to have, it'd be useful to have when we do have the Regulations Committee meeting, presumably sometime this month, I guess.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, anyone else want to say anything about regulations? I didn't mean to jump the gun on. Okay. With that, we have correspondence. We have a bill from Halloran and Sage. I missed the invoice on this. I didn't see it. Does Kathy or Lisa, do you know what the bill was for?
I do. That was Clinton versus Cashman. It was a $74 charge.
Thank you. And then we
You're
also have CH&A invoice number 634,562 for $4,000 for the month. So we have a total of $4,074 as our bills. We have a motion to.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, Lisa?
Ellen Dahlgren,
Aye.
Eddie Alberino,
Aye.
Bo Clark,
Aye.
Martin Jaffe,
Aye.
Alan Kravitz,
Aye.
Adam Moore,
Aye.
Will Benoit.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Now, the next is old business. Does anyone have some old business that they would like to bring to our attention? Hearing none, I would like to move on to new business. And our friends from RiverCOG are here to give us a presentation. So with that, I would like to turn this over to Torrance and Megan and let them present to us. John, can you give them screen sharing if they need it?
Yeah, I assume that's what you want, Megan?
Yes, please.
Mike, is there anyone joining us from the town council?
Not
Yeah, you
tonight.
should be all set.
All right. I'm assuming everyone's seeing that.
Yes.
Great. Thanks. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Thank you also to the Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission for allowing us this time to speak with you this evening. My name is Megan Juflis, and I'm a senior planner with the Lower Connecticut River Valley Council of Governments, or RiverCOG. Joining me in giving this presentation is RiverCOG's Deputy Director, Torrance Downs. At this time, I'd also like to recognize your RPC representative, Alan Kravitz. Alan, if you'd like to say a few words.
Well, I hope we'll be joined by the council. It would be nice to have their input on what the issues are for Clinton. That's all.
There's an element in the chat. The town council is still in a meeting.
Okay.
Well, if they may miss the presentation portion, but we'll be following up with the question and answer. So maybe they'll get here in time for that discussion portion.
Yeah, they did discuss it. I know that for a fact. And they came to some positions, but those are unbeknownst to me.
Well, I guess I'll just continue on with the presentation portion and I'll go slowly. So we would like to begin with a brief presentation, followed by an open discussion based on those 5 questions that were circulated prior to the meeting. We'll go over the procedural matters for the discussion portion when we get there. And we expect this presentation to last approximately 1 hour. So with that, let's begin. Why are we here? As a reminder, RiverCOG, the Regional Planning Committee, or RPC, and our consultant, Fitzgerald and Halliday, are working on the first Regional Plan of Conservation and Development, RPOCD, for the Lower Connecticut River Valley region. On June 29th and July 7th, we held region-wide introductory presentations that offered a primer on RiverCOG, the Regional Planning Committee, and the RPOCD. We'll begin tonight's presentation with a brief recap of the key takeaways from the introductory presentation, which is also available to view on the website, rivercogregionalplan.org. We'll spend a few minutes explaining what we mean by the region and why it is that we think regionally. The purpose of this discussion is to focus our perspective. Although we're here to learn about your town's issues and goals, it's important to keep in mind that we're creating a regional plan. So our focus should be on how your town's issues and goals fit into the region as a whole. We'll highlight some examples of this by showcasing a few goals from your POCD and comparing them to the goals of towns across the region. Then we'll turn the rest of the meeting over to you to discuss your responses to those 5 questions that were circulated before the meeting. At the introductory presentation, we set out to answer a few questions, which I'll briefly recap. Why are we here? As I mentioned at the outset, we're creating the Regional Plan of Conservation and Development. What is RiverCOG? The regional planning organization for the Lower Connecticut River Valley. What is the RPC? The RPC is made up of appointed representatives from each of our 17 municipalities and has been tasked to oversee the creation of the RPOCD. What is the RPOCD? It's a visionary policy document that guides land use patterns in the region over the next 10 years. Also at the introductory presentation, we asked the question of why we think regionally. Because thinking as a region can help our municipalities solve common problems and achieve common goals. But what do we mean by region? Specifically, we're talking about the Lower Connecticut River Valley, which is made up of 17 municipalities: Chester, Clinton, Cromwell, Deep River, Durham, East Haddam, East Hampton, Essex, Haddam, Killingworth, Lyme, Middlefield, Middletown, Old Lyme, Old Saybrook, Portland, and Westbrook. Each of these municipalities is unique in character, but their geographic proximity means that certain common conditions will exist among them and that certain issues and goals will necessarily be shared. In addition, many issues and goals will have impacts that cross municipal boundaries. In other words, what happens in Clinton could have impacts that reach Westbrook. The unique character of each municipality also means that each has its own strengths and weaknesses. Our municipalities are interdependent, relying on each other in areas such as housing, jobs, infrastructure, and critical public services. As part of the RPOCD, we'll be examining these common issues and goals, as well as the areas where our towns are interdependent and provide a roadmap for coordination and cooperation. As part of this effort, hearing from you about what matters to Clinton is critically important. Although this is the first RPOCD for the Lower Connecticut River Valley region, it's important to reiterate that we're not starting from zero. Our analysis of common issues and goals began with a review of municipal POCDs for all 17 municipalities. And after our review, we compared the POCDs and found that they do, in fact, share a great deal in common. So let's look at some of the goals from Clinton's POCD. But first, my disclaimer, I'd like to note that these goals were chosen to showcase the breadth of topics covered, and they were not meant to imply any particular level of importance. That said, number 1, create housing opportunities and marketable incentives for multifamily and affordable housing near the train station and along the Route 1 corridor. 2, adopt a greenway statement allowing for connectivity between existing open space parcels or with possible future connecting open space parcels. 3, market and promote cultural tourism through Clinton's historic resources, Clinton Arts Project, and the concert series. 4, implement bicycle and pedestrian alliance bikeways plan linking residential areas to the train station, major public facilities, and the waterfront. These goals are widely shared. When we looked across the region, we found that all 17 towns had goals related to diversifying housing stock. All 17 towns also had goals related to establishing or linking open space and greenways. 16 towns had goals related to tourism and recreation, and all 17 towns had goals related to improving bicycle and pedestrian connections. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Torrance for the discussion portion of this meeting.
Okay, as Megan said, we've reviewed your plan and made regional comparisons based on data and our own professional experience. But obviously, you guys are the ones who live in Clinton, and you guys are the ones with the intimate understanding of how Clinton functions, what it needs, and what makes it special. Before we turn to the 5 questions that we've sent along that we're looking for input on, we'll go over some procedural matters. We're going to go over the questions one at a time. We're going to spend about 10 minutes or so on each question. Mike, I'm going to have you call on folks for speaking. And keep your comments to 2 minutes or so to leave time for others. And, you know, we can come back to the questions if there's time at the end. Again, we're going to try to keep this to an hour so we don't keep you guys too long. Finally, we understand that these are very broad questions, and you know, 10 minutes per topic is not a significant amount of time. But we're going to give it a shot, and we're going to spend as much time as we need getting your input on this. And sometimes, folks, although I don't think any of you are afraid to kind of speak publicly, but if you'd rather, you can send us comments to Megan in an email or to Alan. We'll have the email addresses here at the end. If you have any thoughts after we finish this that you thought you would have added during the discussion, you know, send those along as well. So let's go ahead and just get to these questions and see what you all think about this. The first one is, what would be your vision for the Lower Connecticut River Valley? How would you respond to that question of what is the vision for the region?
Ellen, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing about Lower Connecticut River. I was just, looking at the map, and we're one of, relatively few towns in this COG that actually is not on the river. And we are much more oriented to Long Island Sound than we are to the river per se. And I think Westbrook is in sort of the same situation. They too are not right on the river. And, when we think region, I think we often think of ourselves more as part of the towns along the Sound than the towns along the river.
Okay.
That's good, Ellen. Anybody else on this one?
Ellen, did you want to? I would say that one of the things that I think is a vision is trying to reduce really the travel congestion while still promoting tourism in the area. And I think that fits something along the, particularly all the shoreline parts of this group, but it also goes up and down the river. Alan?
Yeah, I think the big connector to the world for us is 95, and particularly the narrowing of 95 in Branford and the configuration of the exits into the communities, where they come out, how they come out, the alignments. That's a major sort of structural factor. And it's important because where the major concentrations of jobs are, which are Middletown, New Haven, or New London. So we have traffic going 2 ways on 95, commuters going 2 ways on 95 in the morning, and then particularly on 81 to 9. A lot of traffic again, and we have development along 81 to 9 and 9, pretty close to 95.
Thank you. Bo?
I think an important thing that we have to keep in mind for Clinton is that we, as Alan pointed out, there is congestion on 95, both during the work week and also during the weekends because of travel back and forth. So we have to look at ways to promote the railroad station that's being improved in Clinton and our TODO district. I think that's important for us.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, move on, Mike.
Yep.
Okay. What do you see as Clinton's role in the region?
Mike, I think Will Benoit had his hand up.
Oh,
Will, were
I'm
you
sorry.
trying
I
to-
couldn't see Will.
I can jump in on this one as well. I think that one of the ways we can think about Clinton, especially with the new train station, is sort of being a hub for this area to try to draw people here to use our new train station to commute into New Haven, to commute into New York. And we really need to find a way to draw young people, single young people, find them affordable housing so they're willing to live in this area, keep their jobs in the bigger cities and bring their money here so they can settle, build roots, and start raising their families here in our area.
I think that ties in with my comment about promoting the TODO district in Clinton.
100%.
Okay. So for our town's role, going back to Ellen's comment on the map, we sort of look like we're the outsiders on this group to a certain extent. So that makes it, a little bit difficult to think of our role as the part of the whole group. And I think probably one of the things that this plan has got to do is help us identify with the group, because right now I don't know that we really do.
I don't think the identifying factor is necessarily the river. I think it's the region. And again, we have the benefit of 95 and the railroad and Route 1 that helps Clinton, but also ties us into that region. If you're saying Killingworth, you've got to come down to Clinton to connect to any of these places. And that's what we need to promote here in Clinton. If you're in Killingworth, for instance, which is really outside, they don't have access to the sound. They don't have access to the river, but they're included in the group. But again, the Clintons' role is to say, hey, look, come down this way. We've got your ways to connect to business.
Okay. Anybody else would like to comment on this question? Go ahead, Alan.
The only thing I would say is we need ways to capitalize on the livability of the place. Access is one. Improvement on the waterfront. The overall design and planning of the waterfront, and probably precious, they're going to be put to develop housing on the waterfront. I think it's a growing issue, and we've had some lessons in the past year about what activity waterfront development generates and how that in turn is going to generate more development. But we have to come to terms with how we're going to accommodate that, given that our waterfront is separated from the major arterial routes by a fairly substantial and very stable residential neighborhood.
Thank you. Does anyone else have comments on this question? Okay. Lawrence, I guess we can go on to the next one.
Okay. What are the challenges Clinton is facing that would be easier to address working regionally or with your neighboring towns?
Education, the school systems.
I think the cost of all the services, the administrative and overhead costs of services in small jurisdiction, we need to think regionally in functional terms. How, what, and how.
I would agree with
Ellen,
that goal, but it's a difficult goal to achieve because obviously each town wants the benefits for themselves.
Right. Ellen, you had a comment?
Well, just, I would talk about regionalization. I mean, one thing that we do, it's not on the COG, but a number of the towns are part of it, is the health district. But I believe that the reluctance on the part of other towns is that they feel that they can do the health functions for themselves at lower cost. So, a lot of towns tend to kind of pick and choose. Well, if we cooperate with the town on this, because it'll be cheaper, but we could do this ourselves, and it doesn't, achieve the lowest cost overall across all of the functions, and certainly for all of the towns, because everybody picks and chooses what saves money for them.
Okay. Martin?
Generally, anything that's networked is easier to deal with regionally, and that includes both transportation, but also open space. Normally, when you think of open space, you think of recreation, but how the open space is connected for ecological purposes is ecosystem corridors and things of that nature is something that could certainly be done on the regional basis.
Ellen, you're back.
Yeah, I just, and one other thing that I did want to mention is how thoroughly unfriendly at least large parts of the town are for walking and bicycling. That US 1 is really the only way to get from one place to another because of a lot of the inlets. And a lot of it, just is not wide enough to walk or bicycle safely. It's, as I say, it's just an unfriendly spot to get. It's unfriendly getting around by any means other than automobile.
Anyone else have comments?
Yeah, Martin, you mentioned the transportation, and the 9-town transit is an example of regional, and that's an important connection in Clinton, going up 81.
That's confusing. I mean, I tried to get, I was exploring the elderly senior citizen passes and whatnot for the 9-town transit. I wasn't sure if I should go through 9 towns or whether I should go through Hartford for a pass. It's even unclear to me how you get senior benefits for mass transit in this town.
Okay. All right. So for you anyway, a little clearer application of the 9-town transit. Okay.
Well, but there's also various types of ride sharing or for populations that have disabilities and whatnot that may need better transportation as well.
Oh.
The transportation's a tough sell. I mean, we're running a free shuttle and nobody's using it.
Well, I mean, I'm not using it now because of the pandemic, but I was interested before the pandemic.
Okay. Windows don't close very well anyway.
How about comments on housing, affordable housing, and where you guys think Clinton fits with affordable housing?
Well, we have a lot of housing that's affordable in that it's older, smaller houses, but somehow that doesn't count towards what we the percentage that we're supposed to apply. And if there's some straightforward way to point out, we already have, as I say, a lot of older, smaller houses. There already are several operating trailer parks, there really is quite a bit of affordable housing here. It's just not capital A, capital H affordable housing. And is there some pathway to recognize that we really have met a large portion of the requirement? Of course, a lot of that housing could use some tidying up and sprucing up. That's for sure.
I think you're getting confused between what's classified as affordable housing with under 830G and what is affordable housing to you and I.
And that's what I'm saying is that there's a lot of stuff here that would be affordable.
Right, but in order to count for your percentage in 830G, it has to be declared affordable, and there's a certain structure that has to be included with that, and it lasts for I can't remember. I think it's 30 years now. But we do have I go back to the TODO district. We can incorporate some affordable housing there, but it has to be declared affordable. Even a lot of in-law apartments, we can declare them affordable housing if the applicant so chooses, to meet the quota. But I wouldn't be too concerned about meeting the quota because, quite frankly, I think in the entire state there's only 1 or 2 towns that meet that 10%.
In our region, only Middletown surpasses that percentage.
Yeah, and I think Bridgeport passes. I don't even think New Haven passes it.
Yeah.
But the 10% is a lofty goal that will probably never be reached. And plus, it's always a moving target because they expire after, I think it's 30 years now, isn't it? If somebody comes in with an affordable application, it's approved. That affordability component is only required for, I think it's 30 years.
Yeah, I think it's 40, but the application certainly could be approved. There are ways to get to promote the approval of something if you call it affordable. And my point is we already do have quite a bit that's lowercase a affordable.
Well, in terms of affordable housing, one thing that could happen has happened in counties in New Hampshire and Vermont. They've established housing assistance corporations, basically, to enable individuals who own property or are willing to purchase it to get low interest loans based on public borrowing to renovating those structures. So while they don't meet the affordable housing law, they do in fact provide successful and sometimes owner-occupied affordable housing.
That would be something that would be easier to do as a region.
Yeah. There's, to my mind, an expertise shortage in the small towns. Planners, we know that. Planning, and there are other areas. And if the administration of certain or the provision of consulting services could be somehow shared, there might be ways to both provide the service better and more economically effectively.
That's good, Alan.
The other thing is big changes in the economy, obviously major shifts in the economy. One that I've always been concerned with is aquaculture and basically fish farming. Some, again, support. We're kind of lagging behind a lot of areas in the movement in that direction. And I think we have to think about producing more of our own food. We had the farm structure, there's barns, we have the salt water. We're starting to, people are farming oysters in our harbor now. But, these things often work better when there's a regional distribution facility that acts as a middleman between the individual farmer or that kind of infrastructure. It's network building.
Thank you. Alan, did you have another comment? I just saw your mic on. Okay, go ahead, Torrance.
Okay, our number 4 question is, what do we do well in our region, and what could we perhaps do better?
I think we do community well.
Who was that? Was that you, Kathy?
Yeah, I said I think we do community well.
We do community well.
We help our neighbors, and we have a lot of programs for, you know, families helping families, food pantries, Christmas. You know, if you're having a rough time, I think a lot of the people in the community rally around, and I think they make people feel like they're part of something.
Good, thank you.
I think as far as things we can do better is that we should promote the accessibility of Clinton in our neighboring towns too. I mean, we've got the railroad, we've got 95, we're close proximity to New Haven, not too far from Hartford. We're close to, you know, to Rhode Island, to Providence, and, you know, we're a good midway point, and we've got a lot of things to offer to other businesses, especially with the railroad and with 95. Route 1's another minor corridor, but, you know, Clinton and neighboring towns, Westbrook, for instance, the same thing. We have a good place for people to come to set up, and you have accessibility to New York, to Boston, to New Haven, to Providence, even to Hartford. And I think that's what we have to promote, that, hey, look, come take a look here and see what we have to offer.
Good. Thanks, Waller.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to speak about what we do well in our region, and what we do well is on our waterfront, like Ellen brought up. We're more of a not a river, but the ocean. And we were down there. I was down there the other day. There was not even a parking space, so everything was a go-to. This is a go-to town, you know, with all the restaurants down there. And I want to speak on Kathy's when she made the comment, families helping families. If you ever go up on a Wednesday night, you'll see from the church all the way past to Pearson in the parking lot full of cars that people are getting food. So we help a lot of people out. And we also have the Shore Road area and our beach, you know, that people use. And I've been down at our town beach is packed. We have a lot of people take their boats out. So it is we are a go-to center, and using once the railroad's complete, to have people come down and go and visit our shoreline and all the restaurants down there, the places to eat and the places to walk, and, you know, just ride your bike down on Shore Road. It's beautiful down there. That's all I want to say.
And I think another point too that goes along with that is that we do have Clinton Crossing, so we do have the new development that's going to go into where Morgan School was, and that is kind of a midway point. You know, people coming from New York, going to Rhode Island and to the beaches, that's like their place to stop and kind of take a rest, get off the road for a little bit, and look around, shop. And I think we have to promote that. I think we do it well already, but I think it's something that we have to promote. It gives us an opportunity again to promote the town of Clinton.
That's why I want to talk about the train. Once the train station is done, people come up from New York, get off in Clinton. They have the trolley. Trolley takes them down to our ocean front and explore all the restaurants down there. The Aqua, you know, Shanks, whatever, you know, the places to eat. Lobster Landing made the New Yorker again. You know, one of the best lobster rolls. So I mean, that's an out-of-state magazine. You know what I mean? So these places are becoming, you know, famous. So if the people come here, they come up on the railroad, get off and go visit our shoreline. We have the trolley, go take them down by the shoreline, and we got Clinton Crossing, and hopefully we get this project going up by Morgan, the old Morgan, and it'd be a go-to spot.
You're absolutely right, Ed. Completely right.
On the other
Okay.
side, what we can do better, access to jobs.
Okay.
And
Mark?
that's should be a regional function.
Mhm.
Towns are too small to do it. They have to figure a way to support it regionally and see that the proceeds, both the jobs and the revenues, are more equally distributed through the communities. Like a regional, the state should regionalize redevelopment agencies and go after, be closer to local jobs, local job creation, than rather than spending the money trying to preserve international corporations that you can buy, but they won't necessarily stay. And providing all the structure that they need, seeing that the infrastructure for that is provided.
Mhm. Good, Alan, thanks.
Torrance,
Yeah.
we've lost a lot of jobs in our region since COVID-19. Wayland laid off 250 people. The Lee Company, which is doing a major expansion, they furloughed a lot of their people. Some of these jobs may never come back. I don't know how long it's going to last, but so many places are going dark, and most of the brick and mortar stores are going dark. I mean, it's just this COVID was a killer for the economy. So I don't know what we can do. I mean, the Lee Company is doing that major expansion, like I said, and then they furloughed a lot of people. And so I don't know what the answer is there. I mean, I like to see more people come here to go to work, but those jobs are going. I don't know if they're going to come back.
Yeah, I know. It's tough.
It's very hard. People can't pay the rent. People are really hurting. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that, Eddie makes a good point, is that right now, there's so much uncertainty about what the next year is going to look like. I mean, 6 months ago, none of us thought we'd be in this situation in August. This came, a complete, overwhelming surprise. And it is hard to do the planning kind of function in the midst of such a chaotic event, such a disruptive event.
John Allen, did you want to speak?
Yeah, thank you for allowing me. I know I'm interloping on this, but I'm the chair of the EDC in Clinton, and it goes back a couple slides before, but an overarching idea. One, I think I'll just begin to touch on it. A lot of the stuff we've been talking about is how we look at the RiverCOG as internally, what keeps us together as an internal group. Given my position, it's also how do we market this part of Connecticut? There are a couple major things going on. I have a very good friend that lives up in Tivoli, New York, which is by Red Hook and that upper Hudson Valley. I think Alan Kravitz knows about it. But I mean, people are buying houses up there sight unseen now because of this pandemic. There is an opportunity for this wonderful little part of Connecticut. RiverCOG is a mouthful, not a very marketing friendly name. But I mean, what we can do as a group of towns together is to try to market this part of Connecticut, the southwest corner, the river or the ocean, whatever, coastal Connecticut, and market it. And, all of our towns have no budgets, and we're going to be really slammed when the real cost of this COVID hits us all, because we don't have a clue how bad it's going to be. But some way of actually branding together this wonderful little kind of quiet corner. This is quiet, with a lot more going on it than anybody knows. I mean, a lot of us, at least on this call, are people that moved up here from Fairfield County or from Nyack or from wherever, and the marketability of it and of all the other reasons everybody's mentioned before, I mean, the physical attributes of, halfway between New York and Boston, close to New Haven. I mean, the routes that we have on the water, Route 1, the interstate, and the train now. There's a bigger, and this is maybe where the economic development people that are part of RiverCOG, once this whole POCD is done, it would take a way of how do we put this together in a marketable regional kind of pitch for tourism. And we all need people. I mean, the state of Connecticut needs people. We need people. We need younger people. We're growing older. This is an opportunity, I think, to maybe do some kind of a marketing effort for not the whole state. I mean, I moved up from Fairfield County. They don't need a lot of help down.
John, Alan would tell you that the RPC has had a number of discussions about that idea
of having people understand exactly what we've got to offer. Yeah.
Alan can tell you.
I'm sorry, you're cutting up on me. Maybe it's me.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Alan can tell you, thanks, Will, that the RPC has had a number of discussions on that idea of branding. And, is branding a part of this RPOCD, or is it another step? Is it a recommendation in the regional plan? But in one of our recent town meetings that came up, and, you hear the Berkshires, exactly where that is, the quiet corner. And that idea of branding the lower Connecticut River Valley to enhance tourism and economic development is something they've thought a lot about. That's you use the word that I was thinking, branding. So,
but I mean, Lawrence, it's not so much it would be in addition to whatever you folks do when you actually kind of synthesize all the input you've got. Then I think obviously a big next step would be to actually have the towns take this and actually, how do we brand this? Name has to be changed. I mean, I know what RiverCOG stands for, but how do we change it from not this cobbled kind of thing? And how do we brand it? I mean, I'm just thinking the next step would be, once you've got something, I think it'd be very important if the towns did get together, the EDC people and the town councils and whatever, to say, how do we complement each other and put together not just content, but resources to how do we kind of sell this section of the country? That's all.
Well, that's a great idea, John. And there has been discussion, and there'll be a lot more.
Yep.
Eddie, you wanted to talk?
Yeah, I want to comment on John Allen's. If we rebrand ourselves right now, Mayor de Blasio said he doesn't care who moves out of New York, but they're losing people, 1,000 people a day moving out of New York City. My son put his house on the market. It was gone in 1 week. My ex-wife put her house on the market. It was gone in 1 day. People are coming to Connecticut. And if we get a better name than RiverCOG, like John said, and we rebrand ourselves, I think with the train and all the people moving out of New York will come here. That's my opinion. I said that the last a lot of people just leave in New York in droves.
Well, one thing would be the name of our agency, but the other thing would be kind of
brand,
the overall brand of the area. We like RiverCOG better than Lower Connecticut River Valley Council of Veterans.
But Torrance, you were right. You said when you mentioned the Berkshires, it's not just it's just not Lee and two or three Great Barrington. You mean it almost transcends 2 or 3 states. It's kind of an Earl Guthrie thing going on up there, And,
exactly.
And it's the same thing here, whether it's, I always thought, when I moved up here, I tell everybody I live in coastal Connecticut. And it's not the coastal Connecticut from Darien and Greenwich. It's how do we make it, anyway, that's all doable. And I think I just wanted to make this statement. It's a very important next step for whatever we come up with, that we say, what do we do with it? And not just how do we use it internally, how do we start using it externally?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Martin, just a general comment.
Martin, yeah.
People always ask me where I live, and I always say we're 2 hours from everywhere. basically here in Clinton. And that's both the strength and the weakness. I mean, the strength is the centrality, but the weakness is that you're 2 hours from everywhere. Yeah, and I don't know if that's within recreational housing, tourism type of radius from the large cities, whether we're just too far. 2 hours is too far to travel for a summer home or for shopping or for going to restaurants, Lobster Landing. So I think that's something that you have to put into the equation in terms of your marketing plan. Yeah,
Martin,
I mean,
it may be
we're central, but still
but
fairly
also it may
isolated.
be in the new world that being 2 hours from everywhere may be a very attractive thing in the new world.
I agree. I mean, it's something I appreciate, but going to Boston is a trip. I mean, it isn't anything you do. You wake up, let's go to Boston. I mean, it's you really got a plan. Same thing with Manhattan. New York City is a trip.
But also but branding is more important to say what you're, almost as equally important to say what you're not than what you are, and that's where you really have a very specific, concise definition. That's the Berkshires isn't for everybody. I personally don't like Tanglewood. I'd rather go see the Boston Pops on the Charles River, but when you can. It just, I'm going to have to belabor this, but it's the kind of thing where all the information you're putting together from all these different towns is the stuff by which you can really develop a brand. It's hard to have 17 or 13 towns agree to something. That's going to be the real heavy timber on this one, is how do you have all these towns agree to, this is what we want to call ourselves, but it should be done. That's all I'm saying, and I'll just shut up now.
Alan, I think you were next.
Everybody talks about resiliency, but what we really have is communities that have survived for 5 decades, for 500 years. And that's something. And you can say resilient in terms of the past, something towards the future. It's just, but branding is not the function of it just isn't the planning agency's function any more than branding is the planning commission's function.
Okay. Walter, did you want to speak?
No, not now. I'm fine.
Okay.
Last question, Mike?
Sure.
Okay. One thing we've been talking about, the RPC has talked about with this plan, is that the agency and the RPC really wants this plan to serve our 17 towns. So the question is, how could the regional plan of conservation and development support Clinton? Are there things that we can include in it that would be helpful to Clinton?
Well, I think throughout this discussion, we've touched on several things that could help Clinton. The question is whether our adjoining towns or whether the additional towns in this group are going to support that. You look at some of the things that we've identified here, and they would not be applicable or beneficial to additional towns. There are towns in this group that don't have access to 95. They don't have a shoreline. They don't have a railroad. So what's good for Clinton is not necessarily good or will be supported by additional towns within this group. And that's kind of we alluded to that right at the very beginning of the discussion, that you can call it selfish, you can call it whatever you want, but we're here to support Clinton. If we can help our community as a group or the region as a group to promote the whole region, that's fine. But our number one goal is to support Clinton.
Well, one thing that I think we can do that would support the whole group is something that I believe Alan stated earlier, was this idea of having a regional approach to planning that looked at each town, or at least part of it, because, for us to have our own planner is obviously an expense that we've struggled with. And so the way that the plan of conservation and development could support something that would amount to a regional planner, that might be something that would help us.
Good, Mike. And Walter, the idea of, for instance, supporting, the Clinton train station, that would go into the regional plan through, the support of the Clinton, Westbrook, Old Saybrook stations. And that would be where Clinton would get its benefit. And we have to be careful about putting individual town supporting items in there, but we can certainly take those kind of things and support a more regional version that would help all of the shoreline towns with respect to the railroad or trying to reduce traffic congestion. If it works for Westbrook and Old Saybrook, it'll work for Clinton too. So that's
absolutely, I agree.
Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing would be, for example, there are a couple of towns, we're the worst actually, which is parking at the train station. We're getting a new station, but we're not getting the parking. And this is the link. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, one of the things, we're talking about the highways. I mean, Route 9 is right down the center of this region also. And it doesn't hit us in Clinton, but it is central to it. And, the traffic issues on Route 9, particularly as you get through Middletown, make that less useful for us to go to Hartford, for example. So if we can think of ways to improve that route, it would also help us with our movement in the direction of Hartford.
Well, that's a good point, because when we met with Middletown, that was a large portion of the concerns that they had. And we told them too that, that's congestion on 9 going through Middletown isn't just a Middletown problem. It's a problem to all the towns and the traffic that comes up through Middletown. So that's, to hear you guys say that piggybacks on exactly what we told Middletown. So that's a good point.
Does anybody else have comments? Okay.
Okay.
I think it's back to you, Torrance.
Okay. So at this point, Megan, I'll throw this back to you to finish this up, and then at the end, if there are any further questions, we can address those. But if not, then we'll leave you guys be for tonight. But Megan, why don't you take it from here?
Okay, and I apologize if you hear my toddler in the background protesting her bath right now. Not a lot I can do about it. So we are so grateful for your participation in this process, and we'll be compiling all of your comments with those that we heard from the other towns, and that will inform our policies, recommendations, and goals for the RPOCD. As we move forward, there's plenty of other ways for you to get involved, including visiting the website, rivercogregionalplan.org. I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear that. Signing up for email notifications and sharing these presentations and outreach materials with others in your community. They're also welcome to send in their responses to tonight's questions. All comments are welcome. By signing up for notifications, you'll be kept informed of upcoming meetings, project news, and links to documents and presentation videos as they're posted online. You can also reach out to your RPC member. We'll put up the email address, and there's also a link on the website with any thoughts, comments, or concerns, and the RPC will be meeting regularly to review drafts of the RPOCD. So let's review a breakdown of the anticipated timeline from our introductory presentation. This is also available on the project website, so you can follow along with the process. We kicked off the project in winter of 2019, and we anticipate completion in spring of 2021. We're still in phase 2 of this process at the municipal meetings, which is in the second column, second line, and we'll be holding these municipal meetings just like this one with each town across the region through July and August, and also a little into September. Concurrent with the outreach process, our team has been hard at work on creating an existing conditions report for the region. The next steps in this process after completing the municipal meetings is to provide a draft of the existing conditions report to the RPC for review. This is an opportunity for you to reach out to your RPC member with your thoughts, comments, or concerns on key issues you see for your town or the region. And your RPC member can make sure that these items are sufficiently addressed as they review the report and answer any questions you may have. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions. And also I will just leave up the contact information and the project web address in case you want to write them down. And thank you for listening and participating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For the presentation.
Yeah, you guys, there was some new information, but a lot of information that supported what we've heard already. So thank you all. Eddie, I stepped on you there.
He's resilient. He'll bounce back.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
You see?
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions for Megan and Lawrence? Okay, well, thank you for coming tonight.
Well, thank you for all the comments. This was great. And John, Kathy, and Lisa, thanks for helping us set this up.
Sure thing. All right, Megan, I'm going to take back control from you.
Yes.
Okay. At this point, then, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that was Alan second. Further discussion? We're going to do a voice vote here. All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Not hearing any. Abstaining? Fine. We are adjourned at 8:17. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.